Hi, this is Michael from Expanse VR, and in this next episode of our beginner VR series for Unity, I'll be showing you how to use the teleportation system for the Oculus SDK Asset Pack. Now, if you've attempted to do this yourself, I will not blame you if you've gotten very frustrated. It took me a little time to figure this one out myself the first time going out, simply because there have been updates to the Oculus package and the Oculus documentation hasn't quite updated everything according to the way that things are done. Also with the new Unity versions, there have been some slight changes with how things work. So if you've used the documentation, you've probably got yourself, I'd say 80 to 90% of the way there, and may have just come across a few hurdles which we'll go through today. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course click that notification button down below to make sure you are notified whenever I post a new tutorial for you. Now, if you jump over to the documentation page, we're looking at the Locomotion sample scene. And if you've tried it, you would have jumped in yourself and you can have a play around with it. And you would have seen the different options for moving about. And the one that we're going to be doing is the teleportation system, where you simply click and point and you get a bit of a helper icon to let you know where you are teleporting to. And you can then face the direction based on the arrow using your thumbsticks. This is a breakdown of what is actually needed for the locomotion system to work. And there's two different ways to teleport. You can use the teleportation nodes, which you would have seen in the scene, or you can just simply point and click. We'll be using the point and click method. So to set it up, we just need three components to our system. We need the player controller, which we've already got set up. And in fact, we use the OVR player controller, so that's something where we're going to be doing it slightly different. You need the locomotion controller, which is the thing that helps us to teleport, and the teleport destination prefab, which is this little icon here. Now, for our player controller, this is all the things that we need on here. And see, this is where you can see they've already contradicting themselves. They say the player controller prefab, where in here they're showing the OVR player controller. And this is where things come a little bit unstuck if you've been trying to follow the documentation. We don't need the constraint. It does play a role and we may put that in later on, but for what we're doing today, we don't need that. So basically, we just need to leave the player controller as we've had it before. The main big thing that we are going to be needing in this for it to work is the locomotion controller game object. And all you need to know for the naming convention is that this is optional. You can name this however you want it. I will be naming it locomotion controller just to make it easier for you to understand when you're looking through and following along, but you can call this whatever you want. I've seen people call it teleporter, some people call it teleportation controller, call it whatever you want. But you do need to have a game object inside your player controller to handle the teleportation system. And this lists all the different options that you can have in there. And you'll see there's a few different options that where you will choose which script you want to add into. A good example is if we come down to the aim handler. This gives you two different options. You don't need to put both scripts in, you choose which one you want. The aim handler laser is just a straight line shoot, where the parabolic one is more of a curve. And so depending on which one you want is the script that you want in. Or you can put both in with one enabled and one not, and use a system to change in between it. But the important ones that we do need to have are the locomotion controller, the teleporter, input handler, the aimer, which we're going to go with the parabolic, target handler, which for us is going to be physical. I'll explain what that is. The visualizer, so the thing that actually handles what it looks like. And the type of transition, we're going to go for instant as well. And also this, which is the script that handles which way you face once you do teleport. And the last thing we need is the teleport destination prefab, which has already been done for us by Oculus, and it just simply is plugged into one of the scripts. We will alter this prefab, and I'll show you how to do that so that you can make it look however you want. And if we get enough time, I will actually do a custom shader for it to make it look even more interesting. So now jumping back into Unity, and I know that part was a little bit long-winded, but it is really important that you do get familiar with reading the documentation, and there are many other options that you can do with the OVR kit, but you will need to have a read through to get yourself familiarized, and hopefully that little exercise there made it a little bit more comfortable for you going forward. So clicking on our OVR player controller, we right click, create an empty, and we're going to call this the Locomotion controller. And now what we can do is add in these components that we need. So we have Locomotion controller, Locomotion teleport, input handler touch, teleport target handler physical, teleport laser, the teleport aim visual laser, the handler parabolic, orientation, and finally the type of teleportation that we want to do, which is the blink. So all we need to do really now is fill in these scripts with their options and we'll be ready to rock and roll. But the very first one that we're going to have issue with is the Locomotion controller here. When we drag in the camera rig, not a problem. But when we click on the character controller, you'll see that it doesn't work. Easy fix. We need to actually edit this script. And it's right here at the beginning. What they've actually done is, at the moment, they have a capsule collider and the simple capsule stick movement options. This is for their player controller prefab, but now we're using the OVR player controller. So what we need to do is delete this out or comment it out and uncomment these two out. And if we jump back in, we'll now be able to, once it compiles, we can drag it over now and drag it over and it will work perfectly. The next one we need to do is this one here, our prefab for our teleportation. So if we look up here, teleportation, teleport destination. That's the prefab we need to throw in there. Everything else is the same. Coming down to our input handler. So this is what's letting us do the input to actually do our teleport. Now we're already using one of the buttons on our right controller to grab things. So we need to use a different button for it. For this one here, we're going to use the right index trigger for both aiming and to teleport. The other one important thing in here, because we're using this, we actually need to have something for the teleportation laser to know where it is aiming from when it generates. So we actually need to grab, oops, what did I do there? Just flung ourselves around the scene. Let's fix it up. We need to go to our player controller, find our right hand anchor, a right hand controller anchor. So we pull that in so it knows where to run that from. Everything else can be left the same. The aim collision layer. So this is the physical handler. So this is the one I was talking about here. What this is doing is a couple of different ways that they can handle where the laser will detect. We're using physical and we're going to do it by layers. So for instance, if we are pointing a laser here and it hits the ground, at the moment nothing's going to happen. So we need to change this to default. Don't worry about the explanation at the moment. We are going to do a little bit of an exercise at the end with these pillars over here to show you how this teleport target handler, how you can do some different things with it. The aim visualizer, we need to use the laser prefab. For that, down here in our aim handler, this one here, I'm going to change to 40, just gives a bit of range. Everything else we can leave the same for the moment. Here we're going to be using the right touch for the orientation, and here we can leave the blink. Actually, no, sorry, no, we're not using blink. Remove that one. We're using the instant. Blink is slightly better, but we'll get into that later. And that one can be left the same. Oh, and two other things we need to make a change for. This one is become separate buttons for aim and teleport. Aiming controller is our right touch, and we are using the right trigger for our aiming. So trying that. Now, as you've just seen, I was just thrown out of the scene when trying to teleport. Everything else worked with it fine. Now, there are two reasons why this could be happening. Well, one of them is definitely why it's happening. Another one that could be a possibility. Okay, the first step we need to do is make sure that our refresh rate for our physics engine in Unity is at the correct amount for the Oculus headset that you are using or developing for. And if you're developing for multiple Oculus headsets, then you'll need to have something at the beginning of your program that switches over to that. And what I mean by that is the physics engine in Unity runs at 60 frames per second. But as we can see here from the Oculus developers website, that each of the headsets actually run at different refresh rates. So for instance, the Rift runs at 90, the Rift S runs at 80, the original Quest at 72 Hertz, and the current new Quest 2 comes out of the box at 80 Hertz but can be upgraded to 90 Hertz. And 90 Hertz plus is the ideal refresh rate for VR. I think they're actually aiming for 120, they think is supposed to be the optimum to stop any dizziness or vertigo that some people experience. So you just need to change that, and we do that by going to Edit, Project Settings, and go to the time. Now I'm currently using the Rift S for this project. I do have a Quest 2 as well, so I've set it to this one here. And the easiest way is you go 1 divided by, and then whatever the refresh rate is of the headset that you're using. So for the Quest 2, but for the Rift S, I'm using 80, and that will give me my sample rate. Now, this will fix some issues for people, and you should have this in your project setting anyway if I haven't already covered it. But that won't fix our current problem, because if I play this still, it will still do the same thing. Because what is actually happening is that when we teleport, our character controller is still running. So it is still trying to move the character despite what's going on with the teleportation. And we need to fix that. Luckily, this is a super easy fix. So if we click on our Locomotion controller, find our Locomotion teleport script. Now, as of this video, the function that we need, which is the do teleport function, is down at, and I should have just used the find function, but anyway, down at 769. So this is the function we want here. Depending on when you watch this video, they may have made some alterations to it, so this may be sitting somewhere else, but this is all you need to do. You just need to find this particular function. And what we need to do is, we've already got a reference to the character controller here. We just need to disable it. So we'll use character enabled equals false, which will disable our character controller. Let it do its thing. And then after it's finished, before finishing off, we go character enabled equals true. Save it. Jump back into Unity and let's have another try. So we've fixed that problem, it is working, but we now have one other slight problem, and that's the fact that as we are aiming, we're also moving our player around, because we use the same control stick to both aim and to rotate our player. So all we need to do is jump in over here and disable some of these. Let's just pull this out to make it a little bit easier. So if we just disable these ones here, movement and rotation, that will fix up our issues. So our final part of the tutorial is pretty straightforward, and that's just changing the prefab for the teleport destination indicator. And all we need to do is come down here into our project, search for teleport, bring in our teleport destination prefab. And when we first pull it into the scene, it will be unenabled. So we'll just click on here so we can have a look at it. And as we can see, it's big, it's complicated, and we can make this look so much better very easily. So all we need to do is come up here into our hierarchy. Here we're going to disable the mesh renderer on the external part. The internal part, we're going to halve it in size. And then we're just going to change the color. Change it to a cool blue, around about there. And bring down the opacity a bit, change this to transparent. And we're going to change the emission on this. This won't affect it too much at the moment, but when we add some post-processing later on, this will make it look a lot better. So this looks pretty good already. And then all we need to do, in our asset folder, bring this down to make a prefab. Click original prefab. Just rename it. Go back to our locomotion controller and then pull this in here to our destination prefab. Also remembering that we do need to have this unenabled. Get rid of the one in the scene. And then push play. And as you can see, it looks already a lot better and a lot more easy to check out. Now, I've actually done one earlier with the new shader that I created for this. And as I said before, if I get, I don't know, 25 likes on this video, I'll do a special video showing you how to make this particular shader, and it looks so much better. So here's the prefab I've created, and let's give this one a whirl. And during this quick demo here, you can see a really cool shader that I created for the teleportation system. If you'd like to see how I created this shader in another video, make sure to like this video. If I do see 25 likes, I will create the extra video. So unfortunately this week we didn't get a chance to work more with the layers with our teleportation and using those cool little pillars that I created down the end there. But we will get to that in the next week's video, along with a few other parts for the locomotion. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share to help grow our beautiful Unity community. And don't forget to hit that subscribe and notification button below to make sure you get to see our next video. See you shortly.